time. It's that one resource none of us can manufacture, store, or somehow find on sale. We all live with these big dreams, right? And these exploding calendars.
Yeah, and that constant feeling that our week is just happening to us, not by us.
Exactly. It leaves us asking, with all the rushing, all the filling of the calendar, how are we really using the time we have?
Are we actually living intentionally, or are we just kind of reacting to whatever comes up?
And that question, that's really the heart of this deep dive today. We want to go beyond just the typical productivity hacks, the endless to-do lists.
Yeah, this is about something deeper, I think.
It is. It's about this art of designing a life where you don't just, survive your week, but you actively shape it. You own it.
And our guide for this whole exploration is the source material, Managing Time and Self in a Hectic World. It suggests that truly mastering time isn't just about efficiency.
It's more than that.
Much more. It's about aligning your actions with what really matters most to you. Let's unpack that.
Okay, let's do it. So the source starts by reframing time management. It's not just scheduling, it's the intentional use of time.
Intentional. That's the key word. And the purpose isn't just effectiveness, getting things done.
That's part of it.
Of course. But it's also, crucially, for your well-being and actually achieving your most important goals.
What's really interesting here, I think, is the emphasis that it's not about just cramming more into your day.
Right. It's about focusing your limited time, your limited energy on what truly delivers impact and, aligns with your values.
And the source gives us a pretty helpful framework. It breaks it down into 3 levels. Think of it like planning a journey.
Okay.
The first level is strategic, is the big picture, asking, where do I ultimately want to go? What are your core values, your big life goals? That's the destination.
Makes sense. Knowing where you're headed.
Then you move to the tactical level. So how do I plan the route to get there? This is about structuring your week, setting priorities based on those strategic goals, and actually scheduling the steps.
So the weekly plan, the priorities.
Exactly. And finally, the operational level. That's the here and now navigation. How do I stay on course right this minute?
Dealing with focus, managing your energy during the day, handling all those distractions that inevitably pop up.
Yeah, and the source stresses, you really need that clarity on what matters first, that strategic piece.
Otherwise, you're just efficiently navigating. Maybe in completely the wrong direction. You're busy, but not effective towards your own goals.
So with that foundation laid, how do we actually put this into practice in our daily lives? Let's dive into section 2, personal time management. It's about navigating that space, isn't it? Between pushing for productivity and, nurturing self-care.
It's such a crucial balance, and the source offers several really practical approaches here. One core idea is big rocks first.
Ah, the classic analogy.
Yeah. Imagine trying to fit big rocks, pebbles, and sand into a jar. If you put the sand and pebbles in first.
No room for the big rocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you put the big rocks in first, the important stuff, the pebbles and sand will sort of find their way around them.
So the practical takeaway is, schedule the important, high-impact tasks, your big rocks, before your day fills up with all the smaller, urgent, but maybe not important interruptions.
It feels simple, but it's surprisingly counterintuitive when those urgent things are screaming loudest,
Totally. And how do you identify those big rocks?
Well, the source points to the Pareto principle, the classic 80-20 rule. It's about recognizing that roughly 20% of your actions will generate 80% of your desired outcomes.
So the insight here is to constantly ask yourself, okay, what are the few tasks on my list today or this week that will deliver the biggest results or get me closest to my strategic goals?
And focus your best energy there. A really practical way to make sure those big rocks and high-impact tasks actually get done is time blocking.
Right. Explain that a bit more.
It's essentially breaking your day into specific blocks of time, each dedicated to a particular purpose. A block for focused work on a big rock. Maybe a block just for handling email, a block for meetings.
So it helps prevent your day from just being fragmented by constant context switching.
Precisely. It ensures dedicated time for those important activities.
But it's not just about scheduling the blocks, is it? It's also about understanding your personal energy.
Oh, absolutely. The source talks about working with your chronotype, recognizing if you're naturally a morning person, a lark, or more of a night owl.
And scheduling your most demanding task accordingly.
Yeah, during your natural peak energy times. You can usually figure this out just by paying attention to when you feel most alert and focused. The advice is, don't fight your biology if you can help it. Align your high-focus work with your natural rhythm.
Makes sense. And speaking of energy, the source frames breaks really differently, not as lost time.
But as a critical investment, it mentions techniques like the Pomodoro method. That pattern of maybe 25 minutes focused work, then a short 5-minute break. It helps sustain concentration and prevent burnout over longer periods.
And another way to reclaim energy and presence, digital detox zones.
Yes. Creating specific times or even physical spaces where devices are off or just out of reach. It allows your mind to actually rest from that constant barrage of notifications and distractions.
Which leads directly into something often overlooked, health as a time multiplier. How does investing in health give you more time?
The source makes a very clear connection. Sufficient sleep, for example, literally makes your brain faster, sharper, more resilient emotionally.
So you complete tasks more efficiently, make better decisions.
Exactly, when you're well rested. And the same goes for regular movement and good nutrition. They build a stronger, healthier body that needs light recovery time, experiences less fatigue. It's simply more capable.
So these aren't luxuries, they're foundational to using time well long term.
Absolutely. Plus, think about the mental clarity and reduced stress that come from having a well-structured approach and taking care of yourself. That creates significant peace of mind.
Freeing up cognitive energy that would otherwise be spent just feeling anxious or overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay, so moving beyond just our personal time management. We exist in a world with other people. The source reminds us that effective time use also means nurturing human connections. Section 3 touches on this social dimension.
Yeah, and this includes things that sound simple but are quite profound, like just respecting others' time rhythms and their deadlines. It's a form of empathy, really.
And being intentional with communication.
Yes, scheduling time for those important conversations rather than trying to squeeze them into hurried moments between tasks, giving people your full attention.
And what about things like social media?
The source suggests using it consciously. Maybe setting a timer for checking in with friends instead of just falling into that endless scroll that can consume huge chunks of time without really providing meaningful connection. It's about quality interactions over passive consumption.
Now, here's where it gets really fascinating, especially in our interconnected world. Time management across cultures. Section 4 explores how local habits actually shape our perception of time.
And how that creates global challenges, especially in teams. The source presents this powerful insight by looking at different national time perceptions.
Like what?
Well, for example, cultures like Germany and Switzerland are often described as monochronic. They tend to view time as very linear, scheduled. Punctuality is key, focusing on one task at a time.
Okay, very structured.
Very. But then in stark contrast, you have cultures, say, in Latin America or Southeast Asia, often seen as polychronic. Time is viewed much more flexibly there.
Schedules are more fluid.
Exactly. Relationships often take priority over sticking strictly to a clock, and handling multiple tasks or conversations simultaneously is common.
Interesting. Any others?
Oh yeah. The source notes the USA is often characterized as hyper-tasked, incredibly fast-paced, very focused on results and output. Time is money.
Right.
Time in parts of Africa can be seen as more cyclical, flowing with social events, community needs, natural rhythms, rather than rigid Western schedules.
Less clock-driven, more event-driven.
Sort of. And then Japan is described as having a ritualized approach. There's a strong emphasis on preparation, on the process, and often quite time-consuming aftercare around tasks and interactions.
Wow. What really stands out here, and the source notes this clearly, is that what one culture sees as efficient or respectful,
another might see as rude or chaotic or maybe even lazy. There's really no single right way to manage time that works everywhere.
Absolutely. And these cultural differences must directly impact how global teams function, right?
Hugely. The source gives examples. In a German team, time often equals structure. Deadlines are firm, precision is expected. But in, say, a Brazilian team, time might mean flow. Things are more informal, flexibility is much higher.
In India.
An Indian team might view time as contextual. Priorities can shift based on social cues or hierarchy, which could totally baffle someone used to fixed plans.
And China.
Time equals strategy. Often prioritizing long-term relationship building, which can make project timelines seem slower, perhaps, to those focused only on short-term speed.
Like maybe the U.S. perspective.
Exactly. Where time often equals speed, valuing fast decision-making, quick updates. You can immediately see the potential for friction, can't you? When these different default settings collide in a remote team.
Oh, definitely. Which brings us neatly to Section 5. Remote teams and time zones, the global puzzle. Because the simple reality is, large time differences make real-time collaboration incredibly challenging.
Yeah, a 6-hour difference is tough. A 12-hour difference means someone is always working very early or very late, or maybe not at all doing others' main working hours.
So what are the solutions? The source must offer some.
It does. And a key strategy is embracing asynchronous workflows. Structuring work so people don't need to be online at the same time to collaborate.
How does that work practically?
Using tools like Slack, Notion, maybe Loom for video messages, things that allow colleagues to share updates, give feedback, or work on documents on their own schedule.
Okay, so less reliance on live meetings.
Right. And for those necessary live meetings, rotating the times for recurring global calls. So the burden of the inconvenient hours isn't always falling on the same people or region.
That seems fair. And using tools to visualize times.
Absolutely. Leveraging world clock tools like World Time Buddy, or even just the features in Google Calendar to easily see everyone's local time before you even try to schedule something.
The source also mentions rituals that work globally.
Yeah, things like async check-ins. Maybe instead of a mandatory live stand-up call, people share a quick video or a voice message summary of their progress.
Less disruptive.
Much less. Also, defining silent hours periods when colleagues know not to expect immediate responses from people in certain time zones, respecting their off hours.
And maybe the biggest one.
Shifting the culture to emphasize trust over tracking, focusing on the outcomes delivered, the quality of the work, rather than obsessing over exactly when people are logged in or how many hours they appear active.
Trust and outcomes. That makes sense. Okay, so with all this understanding, personal rhythms, social connections, global dynamics, what are the actual methods and tools the source suggests we use? Section 6 gives us some key techniques.
Right, the practical toolkit. One widely used method is the Eisenhower matrix. It's that simple 2x2 grid for prioritization.
Urgent versus important.
Exactly. You sort tasks by those two criteria. Urgent and important, do it immediately. Important, but not urgent, decide when you'll do it. Schedule it.
Okay.
Urgent, but not important, delegate it if you possibly can. And not urgent and not important.
Delete it. Get it off the list.
Right. It forces real clarity on what actually deserves your attention.
What else?
Another powerful system is getting things done, or GTD. Its main focus is on achieving clarity, getting everything that's swirling around in your head out and into a trusted system.
Like a list or folders or software.
Yeah, whatever works for you, so you can process it all and act on it effectively, rather than trying to hold it all in your memory.
And calendar blocking, we touched on that. That's for focus.
Yes, actively putting specific tasks or types of work into specific time slots in your calendar, treating them like appointments. It helps prevent those time leaks where minutes or hours just seem to vanish.
And for people who prefer something more flexible, maybe analog.
The source mentions bullet journaling. It's a very customizable analog system. You track tasks, events, notes, but it also really encourages reflection and creativity in how you organize your time. It's quite adaptable.
And finally, a time audit.
This one is about awareness. It's the practice of actually tracking, honestly, how you spent your time for a period, maybe a few days, maybe a week.
Just to see where it's really going.
Exactly. It helps uncover those hidden time wasters, identify patterns you might not even realize you have. It can be incredibly eye-opening for people.
So these tools aren't magic bullets, but they provide structures to apply the principles we've been talking about.
Precisely.
Building on that, the source offers a kind of possible rhythm for the week. A weekly survival blueprint, Section 7 calls it, suggesting a focus for each day. Think of it as a guide, maybe, not a rigid rulebook.
Yeah, a template to consider. Monday is suggested for clarity, starting the week by setting your goals, your direction, reviewing priorities based on that strategic vision.
Setting the intention for the week.
Right. Then Tuesday is often ideal for deep work, blocking out significant time for those complex, high-concentration tasks, your big rocks.
Get the heavy lifting done early.
That's the idea. Wednesday shifts towards collaboration. This might be the best day for scheduling necessary meetings, having those important conversations, working with others.
Group work day. Kind?
Then Thursday is for review, checking your progress on the week's goals. What's been completed? Are there bottlenecks? Adjusting plans for the rest of the week, or even looking ahead.
Course correction time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Friday is focused on closure, wrapping up tasks, clearing the inbox as much as possible, maybe doing some light planning for next week, creating a sense of completion before the weekend.
Finishing strong, and then the weekend.
The rhythm definitely changes.
Yeah.
Saturday is designated for recharge, time for rest, Hobbies, physical movement, activities that genuinely restore your energy,
Yeah.
not just catching up on chores.
Intentional restoration.
Yes. And Sunday is for vision. Reflecting on the past week, maybe journaling, and realigning with your purpose and those strategic goals for the week ahead. Preparing mentally.
It's a really thoughtful structure, isn't it? Encouraging that flow between planning, focused work, collaboration, and then that vital rest and reflection.
It is, which
Right.
leads us beautifully into Section 8, Beyond Productivity, Time, and Meaning. This feels like the ultimate point of all this structure and strategy.
It really is.
Because the goal isn't just to be efficient for efficiency's sake, right? Time management, used well, is a tool to actively make room for what really matters in your life.
It's about consciously distinguishing between, say, necessary work time and essential lifetime.
Absolutely. And actively creating space for your passions, your relationships, your creative pursuits, the things that bring you joy and fulfillment, not just the things that pay the bills.
How do you do that practically?
Well, the source suggests consciously adding purpose slots to your calendar. These are reserved weekly blocks of time specifically for work that feels fulfilling or exploring creative ideas, maybe contributing to social causes, whatever feeds your soul and aligns with your deeper values.
Like appointments for your purpose.
Kind of, yeah. And engaging in what it calls legacy thinking. Periodically asking yourself, when I look back at this year, what will I remember? What experiences or contributions will really stand out?
That shifts the focus, doesn't it? From just completing tasks to actually building a meaningful life story. Okay, let's pause here for a moment. We've covered a lot about structure, tools, strategies for managing time externally. But the source takes us deeper, doesn't it? Into the vital inner work. Self-reflection and self-awareness.
Yes, and this feels like the critical missing piece. For so many of us, myself included sometimes, it's not just about what we do with our time.
But understanding why we do it and who we are while we're doing it.
Precisely. Section 1 of this part emphasizes that self-awareness is the absolute foundation of all management. You simply cannot effectively manage your time, your energy, or your life if you don't understand yourself.
Your mental patterns, emotional triggers, your needs, your values.
All of it. You need that internal understanding.
The analogy the source uses is powerful. Time management without self-awareness is like sailing with a map, but no compass.
Explain that.
Well, you might have a plan, a map for where you want to go, but you lack that internal guiding system, the compass, to know your current position, to stay on course, or maybe even to understand why you chose that destination in the first place.
Yeah. I see. You're just following instructions without inner direction. And this section encourages us to turn that compass inward, doesn't it? With some powerful, maybe sometimes uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, the source prompts us to ask ourselves things like, what truly drains my energy and what genuinely restores it? Really think about that.
Am I primarily busy just filling time, or am I living a life that feels deeply fulfilled? That's a big one.
It is. Or do I find myself chasing productivity or maybe external validation just to feel a sense of worthiness?
Yeah. These aren't questions with quick, easy answers, are they?
Definitely not. But engaging with them is essential. The source really stresses that this kind of self-awareness isn't just fluffy stuff. It's fundamental.
Fundamental to leading yourself effectively and, in turn, leading others too.
Following that crucial self-awareness is self-reflection. Section 2 calls it the mirror time ignores.
Which feels so true, right? In our fast-paced world, pausing to reflect often feels like the least productive thing you could possibly do. It feels almost countercultural.
Like you're wasting time if you're just thinking.
Exactly. Yet, the source argues it's absolutely vital. Self-reflection is defined as the pause that actually gives meaning to the motion.
Meaning to motion. I like that.
Without it, our days might be packed, our calendars full, but our time isn't truly felt or understood. It's just movement without insight, action without learning.
These are the quiet audits, as the source calls them, that shape how we show up in the world. And it provides some really powerful questions for, say, weekly or monthly reflection, inviting us to sit with our experiences.
Like asking, what mattered most to me this week? Not just what I did, but what mattered.
Where did I show up fully? Where did I really bring my best self? And conversely, where did I perhaps hide or hold back?
And that requires honesty. Another one is, what patterns do I see repeating in my life or my time usage that no longer serve me or move me towards my goals?
Wow. Sitting with those questions really allows for growth, doesn't it? For conscious course correction.
It really does.
So how do we reconcile these two seemingly different aspects? You've got time management, the structure, and self-reflection, the awareness. The source gives us a clear way to view the distinction, right?
It does. Time management is primarily about the outer structure of our lives. Its focus is on productivity, using techniques like scheduling, aiming for efficiency, and getting things done.
The what and when.
Pretty much. Self-reflection, on the other hand, is about the inner awareness. Its focus is on uncovering meaning, ensuring alignment between our actions and our values, and fostering personal growth.
The why and who.
Exactly. The analogy used is really powerful. Time management provides the architecture, the structure of your life. Self-reflection provides the soul, the meaning and purpose within that structure.
And you need both, right, to build a life that is both functional and fulfilling.
You absolutely need both.
So how can we actually integrate both into our already busy lives? What are the practical steps?
The source offers some good ideas. First, actually build white space into your calendar. These aren't just empty slots to be filled later.
They're intentional pauses.
Intentional periods designated simply for thinking, processing, or just unstructured time that allows for reflection to naturally bubble up.
Okay, schedule reflection time. What else?
Use those powerful journaling prompts regularly. Maybe as part of that Sunday visioning ritual we talked about, or just whenever you feel the need for clarity, make it a habit.
And maybe track feelings, not just tasks.
Yes, that's a great one. Beyond just tracking what you did during a block of time, try tracking how it felt. Was that meeting energizing or draining? Did that deep work session feel meaningful or like a total chore?
So adding that layer of inner awareness to your external schedule.
Exactly. And consciously trying to balance output, the doing, the producing, with input, the feeling, the processing, the healing. Both are necessary for sustainable living and working.
It makes sense. The synthesis seems clear and, honestly, quite profound. Productivity without reflection.
Becomes performance without purpose. Just going through the motions, maybe very efficiently, but without connection to meaning.
And reflection without action.
That leads to stagnation. Lots of navel-gazing, maybe, but no forward movement. But bring both together. Time management and self-reflection.
That's the path to conscious evolution, isn't it? Building a life by design, not by default.
Beautifully put.
It brings us to the final insight from this source material. In a world that's so obsessed with metrics, deadlines, dashboards, it is incredibly tempting, isn't it, to reduce your life and maybe even your sense of worth to just hours worked and outputs delivered.
It really is. The pressure's immense.
But your life, your one precious life, it's not merely a spreadsheet, is it? It's not just tasks completed or hours billed.
No, it's a unique story, one you are actively writing with every single passing moment, using your time as the ink.
And your awareness as the pen.
I love that.
So bringing all of this together, this whole deep dive into managing time and self, it isn't ultimately about achieving some kind of perfect robotic schedule, is it?
Not at all. It's about achieving presence and purpose. By balancing that essential outer structure of time management with the vital inner understanding that comes from self-reflection.
The source's final thought sums it up beautifully, I think. It's not about achieving unattainable perfection.
It's about cultivating presence, being fully engaged in the time you have, whatever you happen to be doing, mindfully present.
And when you approach time used this way, integrating both the structure and the self-awareness, you protect the things that matter most, don't you?
You really do. Your health, your relationships, your capacity to pursue your dreams, and ultimately the well-being of your future self. You're investing in them.
It calls to mind that really resonant African proverb the source shared at the end.
Yes. You have the watch, we have the time.
Such a powerful distinction. It suggests that fundamental difference between merely measuring time, counting the seconds,
and truly experiencing and owning it, living it.
A really powerful distinction to consider. So, as you, our listener, move through your own week, we really encourage you to maybe pause and reflect. How are you using your time?
Perhaps try sitting with just one of those powerful journaling prompts we discussed earlier. Ask yourself, what mattered most to me this week? Or maybe, where did I show up fully? Just pick one.
And if this deep dive resonated with you, maybe consider sharing it with a colleague, especially perhaps one who works in a different time zone, connecting back to that whole global piece we discussed.
Yeah, and maybe discuss how these ideas of time, culture, and self-awareness land for them in their context. Could be a fascinating conversation.